The first crew to Mars will not arrive because one rocket looked impressive on a stage. They will arrive because a chain of less glamorous achievements held together under pressure. The launch window opened. The transit vehicle kept people healthy. The landing system survived entry. Cargo reached the surface before them. Power worked. A habitat stayed sealed. Communications handled delay. The return plan was more than hope. Miss enough of those links, and the mission becomes a story about courage carrying problems that should have been solved earlier. This is Path to Mars on the Quantum Files. Episode 7 closes the series by looking at the first crew not as a slogan, but as a system. Human footprints would be historic. The question is how to make them the beginning of a capable campaign, not the end of a lucky stunt. First does not mean reckless. It does not mean a one-way reality show, a race with no off-ramp, or a mission that launches people before cargo has proven the neighborhood. A serious first crew is the visible tip of a logistics spear. Before humans arrive, robotic missions should have mapped the site, tested landing accuracy, confirmed resources, delivered power, checked communications, and possibly begun producing oxygen or propellant. The habitat should not be a mystery box waiting for the crew to discover whether it works. The return architecture should be honest about what is fueled from Earth, what is made on Mars, and what happens if production falls short. This caution does not drain the adventure from Mars. It protects the adventure from becoming avoidable tragedy. Exploration history is full of bravery. The best modern exploration also tries to make bravery less lonely by surrounding it with preparation. Every seat to Mars is expensive, so every person has to carry more than one role. A first crew might be small, perhaps in the range of a handful of people, though exact numbers depend on vehicle design and mission goals. Whatever the number, specialization has limits. The geologist may need medical training. The physician may need to understand life support. The pilot may need to repair power systems. The engineer may need to collect samples without contaminating them. Software skills, mechanical judgment, scientific discipline, and calm communication all overlap. Cross-training is not a team-building slogan. It is how a small world keeps functioning when one person is sick, asleep, suited outside, or focused on a crisis. Crew selection will also weigh temperament. Mars needs people who can lead and follow, speak clearly under stress, admit uncertainty, and live with others in a confined place where walking away is not an option. A Martian day, called a sol, is about 39 minutes longer than an Earth day. That sounds charming until schedules, sleep, science planning, and Earth coordination all have to absorb the offset. The crew's days would mix exploration with constant maintenance. Outside work would be planned carefully, more like underwater operations or polar field work than casual hiking. Suits need inspection. Tools need checklists. Routes need limits. Weather and dust need attention. Inside the habitat, work may look like a laboratory, machine shop, clinic, greenhouse test bed, and power plant control room sharing the same cramped address. The famous images will be astronauts on the red horizon. The real mission will also be changing filters, checking seals, cleaning dust, exercising, logging symptoms, repairing connectors, and reviewing procedures. Routine is not the opposite of exploration. On Mars, routine is what keeps exploration alive long enough to matter. Sending humans to Mars only makes sense if their presence adds real value. Robots are excellent, patient, and far safer to risk. Humans bring speed, judgment, dexterity, and the ability to connect clues in the field. A trained crew could inspect layers in a cliff, choose samples in context, adapt a traverse when the ground surprises them, repair instruments, and recognize when a strange rock deserves more attention. The science questions are profound. Mars once had liquid water on its surface. It preserves ancient environments that may record whether the planet was ever habitable, and perhaps whether life ever began there. Conservative science does not promise fossils or microbes. It says Mars is one of the best places to ask how common habitable worlds may be. A first crew should be designed around that serious purpose. Flags and footprints may open the chapter, but samples, measurements, and context will decide what the chapter was worth. There is no quick medical evacuation from Mars. That single fact changes the health plan. The crew needs strong screening before flight, training during the mission, diagnostic tools on site, a carefully chosen pharmacy, and procedures for injuries or illness that can be handled within the limits of a small crew. Telemedicine helps, but delay means Earth doctors cannot guide every second of a procedure live. Prevention becomes strategy. Exercise counters bone and muscle loss from the long cruise and reduced Martian gravity. Radiation exposure has to be tracked. Sleep has to be protected. Mental health support has to be real, private enough to use, and integrated into the mission instead of treated as decoration. Food, lighting, workload, conflict resolution, and communication with home all affect health. A Mars crew's medical system is not a cabinet on the wall. It is part of the vehicle, habitat, schedule, training, and culture. A first crew mission has to answer the return question before launch. Some architectures imagine making propellant on Mars before the crew arrives. Some land a return vehicle or ascent stage with enough propellant already supplied. Some designs accept a long surface stay until orbital geometry opens the best path home. Each choice has consequences. A short stay may reduce some surface risks, but can demand more energy or tighter timing. A long stay allows more science and more efficient transfers, but it requires greater confidence in habitats, food, spares, power, medicine, and crew psychology. If a return window is missed, the question becomes whether the crew can wait safely and with dignity. That means margins measured not only in kilograms, but in repair options and mental endurance. Coming home is not a credit scene after the heroic part. It is another mission phase with its own launch, rendezvous, transit, and re-entry risks. Technology is not the only gate. Mars programs have to survive budgets, leadership changes, public attention cycles, international agreements, industrial delays, and the temptation to announce timelines before the hardware is ready. Partnerships can share cost, talent, launch capacity, science, and legitimacy. They can also add coordination problems. Private companies can move quickly and change assumptions. Public agencies bring deep experience, oversight, and long-term scientific purpose. A durable Mars campaign may need both. The hard part is keeping safety from becoming a bargaining chip when schedules slip. The first crew will be brave, but courage should not be used to cover weak planning. The quantum file stance stays steady. Possible is real, ready is earned. A program that admits what is not yet solved is not less inspiring. It is more likely to last long enough to solve it. Look back across the series and the pattern becomes clear. Distance sets the tax. Landing spends the first terrifying minutes. Local fuel fights the shipping bill. Dust and radiation police the surface. Habitats turn arrival into staying. Delayed operations turn Earth from live controller into patient partner. The first crew only makes sense when those unlocks are more than slides. Mars is still far. It is still cold, dusty, delayed, and expensive. It is also still one of the most meaningful destinations humans can attempt, because it asks whether we can explore with patience equal to our ambition. The path to Mars is not a straight line from dream to flag. It is a sequence of earned capabilities. If we take that path seriously, the first crew is not the finish line. It is the moment the question changes from can we touch Mars to can we learn to work there well. This has been Path to Mars on the Quantum Files. Close enough to dream, far enough to demand excellence. The honest ending is not that Mars becomes easy. It is that careful people can make hard things repeatable, and repetition is how a first footprint becomes a future. That is the series Close. Not a promise of quick settlement, but a case for patient capability.